was when we got to high school. And I had had some older moms that had said, hey, things really start to shift when they get driver's license, because all of a sudden they're free to make different choices and you start to see different friends make different decisions. And so we got to sophomore year and it just, you could kind of go back and go, what started it all? But I think it's just a lot of emotional immaturity. I think it's girls that are just trying to find their own place in the world and they just don't have a lot of empathy and kindness necessarily. And so it just kind of started this. Caroline found herself, like so many girls have, where she all of a sudden was the one that everybody decided to go against. And they were talking about her. They would leave her awful texts. They would say awful things to her. They would corner her in the bathroom at school. And it was the craziest thing, because like, I am not one of these moms. Like I would always be like, did you do something? Like, have you done something? Like, what happened? Like, cause I'm not going to be like, my kid's perfect. She didn't do anything. But she was like, no, I'm trying to talk to them. Like, I'm asking, like, can we talk? What happened? What's going on? And you just realize at some point, and it's like what I told her is I was like, this really doesn't even have anything to do with you so much as it has to do with something that's going on with those girls. And so there comes a time where you have to stand up for yourself and you have to walk away and go, these are not my friends. And so it was a really, really hard time. And I think part of the reason I started writing this book was because I talked about it on another podcast years ago. And I had so many women that reached out, and either they had gone through it, their daughters were currently going through it, they had a friend whose daughter was going through it. And I was like, we have a mean girl epidemic. Like it's the thing that I don't know that everybody's talking about, but I'm like, it's a problem. And so what can we do in our homes? Because you can't control other kids, but what can we do in our homes to do better?
What do you think is like the cause of that? Because I think you're right. I think it is a problem. Is it a lot of hurting people? I always tell my kids hurting people hurt people.
Yeah.
So that's like the first thing I say when they come home talking about like a bully. I'm like, well, what hurt? Like, how are they hurting? Let's figure that out.
That's it. And I think that's what it's from, is I think you have a lot of kids. I think if you don't have a spiritual compass, if you're not finding your identity in Christ, I think a mean mom is going to raise a mean daughter. I think if our kids see us prioritizing all these things, which the world tells us to prioritize, your academic prowess and what team you're on, and if you made A team or B team and all of that, I think we can start operating from this like scarcity mentality of somebody else's success means less success for us, instead of an abundance mentality of like, hey, just because you didn't make the soccer team, that just means God has something else for you. Let's be happy for our friends that made the soccer team. And let's go try out for basketball or band or whatever it is that is your thing. So I think that's a real big key, is I think our kids watch us to see, what do we value? What do we prioritize? What are we showing them? And we have to lead the way, because the bottom line is they are emotionally immature. Their frontal lobe has not developed. They're in it's a little bit of the Lord of the Flies mentality a little bit. So I think it's our job as parents to pour in and say, this is how you become a decent human being.